In last week's Digest China, we visit one Chinese elementary school in Beijing. We talked to a few children who elected as student leaders. They told us the nuts and bolts of executing power given by their classmates and teachers. But what about children from other countries? What are their student governing systems like? For this week's Digest China, we visit one international school in Beijing where students come from more than 50 countries. And how did you become a student councillor?
In class, you raise your hand if you want to be in student council, and you have an election in the class, so people vote for who they want the student council to be, and the person with the most votes gets to be in student council.
Right. And why did you want to become a student councillor?
Because I knew it would help me, it helps you become more responsible, because in movie nights or socials, you need to organize all the money that people pay to go. It helps you to speak louder and be able to speak more confidently in front of other people. So I think that's how it helps you.
And what was your favorite part of being a student council?
I think I like leading the meetings the best, because every week you need to have a class meeting so everyone can tell you their ideas or problems that they found in the school. And you can also tell the people if there's an event coming on. So if there's a social like next week or something, then we can tell them and they can tell us if they want to go or not.
And why did you like that?
Because then it feels like you're very important in the class. And you get to choose who will speak in the class, and you get to be a bit bossy.
Really? Did you like to be a boss?
Kind of.
Kind of. And what would be the least, or what was the least favorite part of being a student councillor?
When there's a problem that people want to solve, you have to email Miss Clark or teachers in the school. The teachers don't think that's right, and they kind of get kind of angry.
They turn it down.
Yeah.
Okay. How did it feel like of taking power?
It felt quite good.
Quite good. Why?
Because when you can't, no one can tell you what to do.
So you have to decide, and you have the final say of whether we're going to do this or not.
Yeah.
If they want to do something, they want to make something happen at the school, and how did they tell you, and how did you make that happen?
They raise their hand, and then they tell me their idea. I say if it's possible or not. So if it's possible, I write it down, and then I go to on Tuesday after school, I tell them the idea, and if the others like it, and the time, and we have time to do it.
And what did you feel when you were elected?
I felt quite happy. So I knew that people trusted me.
And how do you make people trust you?
I made them trust me while I was doing it I tried doing as much as possible for their ideas to come.
And what did you do exactly?
Well, we organize socials, and we were taking kids' ideas, and we did a class vote, and then if it passed, we took it to student council.
And what was your favorite part of being a student leader?
I think my favorite part was helping all those kids, and taking their ideas and taking it to student council and just having fun.
Right. And what about the least favorite part?
Well, my least favorite part is when maybe I get sick and then I can't go, and then
So was her decision to be a student leader last year, or was it your suggestion?
No, she came home from school and she just said, "Hey, Mom, I'm going to run for student council." And we were very excited about it. We thought that it was a great thing for her. I think it helps to teach kids a lot of life skills. She learned public speaking, getting up in front of all of her classmates. She has to make a speech to try to get votes. It teaches great humility in competition. So that was nice because there's a couple of people running and only one can win. So you have to be humble to the people who didn't win. You can't be mean. You have to accept that you've won or that you've lost graciously, which I think is a very important life lesson.
And what's your take on giving kids power?
I think it's important because it's guided power. You're giving them power, but it's not unlimited power where they can just take over the school. They have, last year Mr. Cowell ran the student council, so they were guided. They knew what was okay, what wasn't okay. They had to make some tough decisions in some cases. The talent show, the student council, the group of kids have to sit there, and it's very tough because in most cases they want to just pick their friends. But they're being guided and they're being taught that you can't just pick somebody because you're friends with them. You have to pick the people who you think are going to do the best or who followed those guidelines the best. So I think it's all very important lessons that they've learned.
And have you seen any changes in her?
There's definitely self-confidence boost, where you feel like you belong. You feel like you've been accepted by your peers. And so there's a definite boost of self-confidence and self-assurance.
And did you give her any tips, or did you teach her or tell her how to be a successful or good student leader after she was elected?
I think that the most important tips is to always be positive, to always look for a solution to a situation, and just to do your best. Be the best person you can be, because that's what's going to take you the farthest.
From the kids that we chatted with today, and it seems that they quite enjoy being a student leader, especially feeling good about being important in the group and having a little bit of power, and sometimes being a little bit bossy, perhaps. And what do you think of this?
I think it's good to enjoy it until it gets to a point when you take it too far. It's a controlled environment. People get bossy, but I think it also has to do with the age and the grade and all of that. I don't think it's necessarily student council or not. I just think that it's a situation. I see more benefit than negative to having student council and to being involved in it.
And what did you mean by to a certain point?
If the kids start getting mean about it, then it's a bad situation. But they don't let that happen here. At least they didn't let it happen here. If the kids started to feel that they were getting too important, let's say, they would either be pulled aside by other student council members, or they'd be pulled aside as a group and they'd discuss it. You would know. Did anybody have an attitude that they were better than anybody else?
Had that attitude, although some people would kind of push people around, tell them to do this job. Sometimes it was because Mr. Cowell told them, but most of the time it wasn't. So what we did was we had a group discussion, and we told them what we didn't like about.
So it became a learning and teaching experience versus being allowed to take it to an extreme. I know from Hannah, having been in it and not now, she can kind of get her opinion across without being pushy.
So, Phil, would you tell me, what is the student governing system like in this school?
Well, in our school, we have a student council which is comprised of representatives from grade 4 and grade 5, and each class sends one student along, and the student council has an 8-week session which meets after school, and so we have those reps from the grade 4 and the grade 5 classes for 8 weeks, and then at the end of that time the classes will choose a new rep who will come for the next 8 weeks, and then they will have a third election when they will send a new rep for the final time. So over the course of 1 year, each class would be able to have 3 different students have a chance to represent their class on the student council.
what do they do?
Well, the Student Council has a couple of roles. One role is to basically be a communication channel between the school, being the staff, the teachers, and the student body. For instance, we don't know when the bell is broken on the playing field because we're not there, but the students can tell us, and that's one way they can communicate that. Then they will also, when the students have some idea of something they would like to do, they would like to have a social with a movie and a dance or something, then the Student Council, it's their job then to organise that for all the students.
So when a student is selecting their student representatives, what criteria do they look at in those candidates?
Well, being what's called an IB PYP school, we have a list of 10 attributes that we believe all children and in fact all learners and all people should have. And these are things such as being a risk taker and being curious and being a good thinker. And we have this list of attributes. And what most of the children will do in their speeches to try and win the election is to choose 3 of those that they feel they are particularly good at, and then try and convince their classmates, I'm so responsible because, well, you remember last week I had to do this job and I did it so responsibly, so you can trust me. So these are the kind of attributes that the children will try and, show off or to the best of their ability.
Would the kids do any lobbying before the elections?
Not as far as I've ever seen. I mean, they may do it when I'm not looking in a very informal way, maybe vote for me, but not in a formal way or any way that's obvious anyway.
Are these student representatives also students who are very good at getting good grades in their studies?
Not necessarily at all. And in fact, it's one way for students who might not be good academically. As this happens every year, students like that, and they find academics very difficult, but they are brilliant organisers and brilliant motivators of a team.
And do they have any executing power in the Student Council?
Yes, they do. The whole philosophy for me, why do student leadership, is about giving power to students. And I think we've been very successful because it's real.
What do you mean by the power that they were given? Is that the kind of power that they will be able to give order to other students who are the same age? Or what kind of power exactly?
No, not power like that. For instance, the school has a policy, we don't do Halloween dances or activities because this is a cultural event. We're a multicultural school. We don't do Halloween. Every year, Student Council, the students will say, we want to have a Halloween dance or a Halloween party. And I know it will not happen. The school will not let it happen. But I let them talk about it. I let them vote on it. And it's part of the learning process for them, of course. So they have power, which means they will make their own mistakes, but they will learn from that as well.
What kind of influence do you think the experience of being a class representative would have on the student long-term growth and development?
For almost all of the students, it presents a challenge. And it often is the biggest challenge to children who are already good at everything at school. But suddenly organising a social event for 120 kids, they've never done that before. And it looks so easy, right? We come along, we eat some food, we have a party. What's to organise? It's so easy. It's not, of course, it's very difficult. And what's great to see is children who are not good academically might have a really strong influence in Student Council and achieve something that they're very, very proud of. And I will hear teachers say to me, that child has changed since they've been on Student Council, which is, of course, the best words I ever get to hear.
The teachers at the Western Academy of Beijing told us that the education system at the school is more toward that of American style. So our program, in fact, compares student leadership systems between the Chinese school and American-style international school. We found the biggest differences between these two systems lie in the nature of the roles and the prerequisites for a child to have in order to become a student leader. Whereas Chinese student leaders often act as teachers' little assistants and the peers' role models, international student leaders act as the representatives for the peers and the bridge between their groups and the school. Whereas academic performance and self-discipline are important prerequisites for Chinese kids, social and organizational skills are taken into more consideration by the international school we visited. but there are also strikingly similar aspects we found. For example, both parents and teachers, and even the kids themselves, consider being a student leader an important school experience and way to be recognized by the groups. It's also recognized as an important educational process for the kids to learn how to manage themselves and their peers while in a position of power. What do you think? Please share with us your thoughts on our Chinese Twitter Weibo or through email, which are listed at the bottom of the screen.
We get together